An infant on continuous cycling peritoneal dialysis presents with cloudy effluent. The team wants to start empiric therapy immediately. The question is, what is the first diagnostic step before prescribing empiric therapy? If you do not know the diagnostic criteria, you cannot formulate a safe and effective plan. By the end of this episode, you will understand the mechanics of peritoneal dialysis, how to prescribe it, how to measure its adequacy, and how to approach its complications. Start with the anatomy and physiology of the peritoneal membrane. The peritoneal membrane acts as a semi-permeable barrier, allowing solute and water transfer. There are two primary physical forces at work. The first is diffusion, which drives solute clearance across the concentration gradient. The second is osmosis, which drives ultrafiltration. Understanding these two principles is the absolute foundation for everything else in peritoneal dialysis. When you are formulating a basic prescription, you are essentially manipulating these two forces based on the patient's size and residual kidney function. The mental model should be a dynamic membrane where blood and dialysate interact. How do we know how a patient's membrane will behave? We use a peritoneal equilibration test, commonly known as a PET. A PET characterizes the patient's specific membrane transport type, grouping them into categories like high or low transporters. High transporters clear solutes very rapidly but lose their osmotic gradient quickly because glucose is absorbed fast. Therefore, they benefit from shorter dwell times, such as those used in continuous cycling peritoneal dialysis, or CCPD. Conversely, low transporters maintain osmotic gradients much longer. This makes them suitable for longer dwells, such as in continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, or KPD. When prescribing peritoneal dialysis, three main variables must be determined: fill volume, dextrose concentration, and dwell times. Fill volume should generally be scaled to body surface area rather than strictly by weight. This optimizes membrane utilization without generating excessive intra-abdominal pressure. Next, consider the dextrose concentration. Dextrose acts as the primary osmotic agent in the dialysate. Higher dextrose concentrations increase ultrafiltration, which removes more water, but they risk metabolic complications over time. Dwell times are then customized based on the patient's membrane transport type determined by the PET, balancing adequate clearance with sustained ultrafiltration. After prescribing the dialysis, you must ensure it is working. The adequacy of peritoneal dialysis is traditionally measured by calculating total weekly KT/V urea. This provides a numerical value for clearance. However, this number alone is insufficient for pediatric patients. Clinical parameters are equally important and must be integrated into your assessment. You must evaluate the patient's overall growth, nutritional status, and fluid balance. A patient with an acceptable KT/V who is failing to thrive or constantly fluid overloaded is not receiving adequate dialysis. Measuring adequacy requires both the calculated clearances and a holistic clinical picture. Peritoneal dialysis is not without complications. Non-infectious complications include leaks and hernias, which are mechanically exacerbated by high intra-abdominal pressure. Managing them requires careful attention to fill volumes. Another non-infectious issue is ultrafiltration failure. This can result from intrinsic changes to the peritoneal membrane over time, mechanical issues like catheter malposition, or simply an inappropriate dialysis prescription. When a patient is not achieving the necessary ultrafiltration, a systematic evaluation of membrane function, catheter mechanics, and the current prescription is required before assuming the membrane itself has permanently failed. Return to the opening consultation, the infant with cloudy effluent. The first diagnostic step before prescribing empiric therapy is analyzing the effluent. Peritonitis is diagnosed by cloudy effluent, abdominal pain, and a white blood cell count greater than 100 cells per microliter with more than 50% polymorphonuclear cells. Now for 4 board pearls. 1. The peritoneal membrane uses diffusion for clearance and osmosis for ultrafiltration. 2. A PET identifies membrane transport type, guiding dwell times. 3. Fill volume should be scaled to body surface area to prevent hernias and leaks. 4. Adequacy requires both KT/V and clinical parameters like growth. Next, EP31 covers hemodialysis complications, vascular access, and emergencies.